Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for today's call. This is the Patient Experience of Care Learning in Action Network event. I'm O'Neill Delva with the ESRD National Coordinating Center, so I'll serve as your technical host as part of today's discussion to assist with the polling as well as to capture some of the feedback that you all will be providing to us as we go on today with our session as we get to our chat opportunities as part of today's discussion. In a moment, you're going to hear from our presenter today, Julie Moss. But before we officially get started, of course, we'd like to go over a couple of housekeeping items to help you as we go on with today's event to help set the stage and give you an idea as to how you can communicate with us. A couple of reminders, starting with the fact that today's call is the audio is streaming over your computer speakers. This is to help free up a telephone line on your end. But if you are not able to stream the audio, if you're having connection issues, please feel free to send us a message via the chat window. We do have a limited number of phone lines available that we can share with you to help ensure that you not only get to see the presentation, but that you can hear it as well. Also, if you are currently hearing an echo, echoes are caused due to multiple connections to the same event via one computer. So please close all but one window, all but one browser, and that will help with reducing, eliminating any echoes you might hear on your end. Another reminder is that you can communicate with us today by using the chat option. You can hear from us, but we cannot verbally hear from you, but we do want to hear from you as we go on with today's event. We do have some opportunities later on where we're going to ask you some questions via chat and ask that you please provide a response so that we can capture and share your thoughts as we go on with today's event. So please incorporate your voice as part of today's discussion. Also wanted to remind you all that today's course, today's session has been approved for one continuing education unit. So at the end of today's session, we will end the event, a post-event evaluation will display, giving you the opportunity to share your thoughts. We do look at those, so please take a moment to complete the post-event evaluation. And if you need a CEU certificate, once you've hit the submit button, a page that looks just like this will display, giving you the opportunity to access the learning and management system that contains the certificate for today's event. So for today's event, you're going to hear from Julie A. Moss. She is the Director of Patient and Family Engagement and Learning in Action Networks for the ESRD National Coordinating Center. In her role, Ms. Moss leads the ESRD NPFE LAN of over 100 patients and caregivers who convene to identify perspectives and uncover best practices related to the quality of care for patients with kidney disease. Ms. Moss has over 12 years of experience in supporting the design, development, and implementation of healthcare communication, customer service, and relationship-centered strategies to engage CMS Medicare beneficiaries and their families, cross-setting providers, and stakeholders. With that, I would like to turn it over to Julie to assist us with today's discussion. Julie?
Thanks, O'Neill, and good afternoon, and welcome to everyone who's joined the call. We're going to go through some objectives for our call here. Today, we look to introduce Net Forward Energy to the group. We're going to review some of the LAN topics from previous calls that we've had this year for patient experience of care. And later on in our call, we're going to apply Net Forward Energy concepts to the grievance process, relationship-centered care, and psychological challenges for dialysis patients. But before we get started today, we want to send out a couple of polling questions. So our first one is, we want to discover who's on the call. We ask that you please select the one title that best represents who you are. O'Neill?
All right, thank you, Julie. So you should see the polling displayed. We'll pause for a moment, giving you a chance to share your thoughts. We do have over 212 folks connected, so just take a moment. Click the option that best represents you. Are you at a dialysis facility? Or are you at, facility administrator? Are you a social worker, nurse, dialysis technician, dietitian, patient caregiver, or are you with CMS? All right. So far, we've received feedback from about 160 individuals, so we'll pause just a little bit longer, giving you a chance to make your selection and click the submit button. All right, see it's starting to slow down a little bit, so we'll do a quick countdown if that's all right with the group to help us with time. So 3, 2, make your selection, and click the submit button, 1. All right, so we'll close this out. And it does show that we received feedback from 168 individuals. And of those who replied, 34 indicated facility administrator. We have 100 social workers on. So welcome, thank you. 19 nurses. We don't have any dialysis technicians. We do have 9 dietitians on, 3 patients, and 3 individuals from CMS on. Julie, turn back over to you.
Thank you, O'Neill. So one of the other things we want to discover before we get going today is why am I on the call? And I'm going to turn the call back over to O'Neill. We're going to give you another polling question, and he's going to read the polling question because we had to kind of simplify some of the answers. But we want you to select the one answer that most closely represents why you're on the call today.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Julie. So I'll leave this up for a moment so you can see the answer options, and then I will display the polling because, as Julie mentioned, we had to shorten it a little bit. So the first answer option is want to improve staff and patient relationships, am ready to do things differently and want to understand how I might be able to do that, am curious about what makes a LAN successful. So let's go ahead and display the polling, which should be up on your screen now. So I am attending this series of calls because I, again, want to improve staff and patient relationships, am ready to do things differently and want to understand how I might be able to do that, or am curious about what makes a LAN successful. So make your selection, please. We'll pause for a moment, giving you a chance to once again share your thoughts. Thank you so far to the 68 folks we've heard from so far. All right. I see it's starting to slow down a little bit. Let's go ahead and do a quick countdown, of course. So 3, 2, make your selection and click the submit button, and a 1. All right, perfect. Thank you. So for this one, it does show we've received feedback from 183 individuals, so thank you. It's an increase from what we got a moment ago, where it does show 137 individuals made the selection of want to improve staff and patient relationships. 23 indicated am ready to do things differently and want to understand how I might be able to do that. And 23 indicated am curious about what makes a LAN successful. Julie, I will turn it back over to you.
All right. Thanks, O'Neill, and thanks to everybody for participating in the poll. So it's super exciting to see the groups we have on and why people want to be here. And we're going to get started with talking about what net forward energy is. I want to let everybody know there's great news with this. You have it and you can use it. You have it within you. It's available to you. It's part of who you are. It's just a matter of how we're going to tap into it. So we're going to go on to the state of net forward energy is being in the present moment. And I ask you to stop and think right now, when was the last time you were in the present moment? Are you in the present moment right now on this call? Or because your phone line is free, you're actually on the phone with someone else while you have the call running. So it's really important in net forward energy to recognize what's going on around you and be part of the present moment. Curiosity is a big part of net forward energy. We want to be curious enough to question thoughtfully, especially in our engagement with patients. When patients are telling us something and we want to understand it better, we want to be thoughtful and curious when we respond back. We might say something to them, how might I better be able to assist you? Or what might I be able to do that would help you? Or how might I work with you to help you feel better? Or some things of that nature. We want to anticipate the needs of others. When we come into work every day, we have a process, we have a routine, we have a checklist of things that we have to accomplish, but many people around us, and sometimes including us, are coming in from a different perspective. They got stuck in traffic, they might have had a disagreement with someone in their family before they got there, they have something else on their mind, and so their disposition about what's going to unfold in their work duties and their relationships with work colleagues as well as patients might be a little frazzled. It might have a little bit of negative energy in it. And so we want to take a breath and anticipate what folks are going to need in that day. And sometimes we have to chunk out our day. We have to take it in the first hour of work might look different than the last hour of work. And we have to think about what might I need. We have to be flexible, absolutely flexible in net forward energy. We've got to realize that everything around us is waxing and waning, sometimes at very high speeds throughout the day. And the more flexible we are to that, the better we're able to test and learn at every level. We're able to take information in, we're able to digest it, and we're able to take back out to someone what they might be expecting or what they need to hear about a situation. Listening and observing in order to teach back, key. Listening, I think sometimes in our work worlds we get going and folks are coming to us or coming to our team and wanting advice or having questions, and sometimes we have to sit back and take those questions and put them back to the person who's asking them. Take it back out and listen to where they are with what they're seeking to find and learn. We have to be fearless in our encounters. We have to, even in the moments where we might not be sure, we have to be fearless. We have to seek out one another and support from one another. And it's okay to say, I'm not good at that. O'Neill and I talked about that right before this call today. And I said, O'Neill, you really don't want me to do that job because I wouldn't be very good at it, and it would probably cause a very big backup on our call today. And he kind of giggled and he said, okay, and I agree, and he agreed with that. I wouldn't be very good at that. So we're fearless. I'm not afraid to say I wouldn't be good at that. We're purposeful and passionate about our choices and our work. We selected the work that we're in. We applied for it in most cases, or we were recommended for it. We went through an interviewing process, and here we are. Lo and behold, we're in it, and we have to think about it that way. We have to be mindful of the purpose that we bring to it and the passion that we had when we applied, and bring that back into the work choices that we make every day. And last, we need to be empathetic to both fortunate and unfortunate situations, and check in with our empathy levels. When somebody's coming in and they're struggling, how empathetic are we? Are we rushed? Can we not assist somebody at that time? How do we approach that? How do we connect back with them later and say, hey, I'm sorry I wasn't available when you wanted to check in on that, but I'd like to learn more about what's on your mind with that. So those are some things that we have to choose to be if we want to experience net forward energy in the work and life that we live. So there's two kinds of energies, thoughts and statements. There's positive and negative. Positive energy takes responsibility. It makes opportunities happen. It looks for opportunities. It says in its appearance outwardly, it's envisioning something that could be better. It's always asking, what can we do more of or better, or how might we rework this, or how would this impact somebody if we did this instead? We always take action in positive energy environments. Action is a constant part of our PDSA cycle. We're looking at it, we're planning, we're doing it, we're actualizing it, and we're studying it, and we are coming back to it to determine what can we do better. Positive energies have good stories. And the story itself might not be about a good circumstance, but it is a good story. It's told well, it's told with passion, it has empathy, it's in the present moment, it's curious, it's all of the things we talked about just a few minutes ago. And positive energy is always open and perceiving. It's never closed and judgmental. So as we think about our positive energies, we make a little mental checklist in our minds. Where do I fit into those characteristics, and how might I improve on some of them, or where can I really champion one of those and really hone that positive attribute of energy. Negative energy, of course, assigns blame. It never takes accountability. It's always looking at problems. It's totally every day, well, we can't do that. That won't work here. Why is that person doing that? It's a wait and wish. We'll let somebody else take care of that. They'll have the answer. We'll just wait. It's reactionary because there's no positive, forward-moving energy. It's very reactionary. Well, that happened to me. This happened to me. This happened to our group. Well, that happened because so-and-so. They're bad stories. Not only are they bad circumstances, but they're bad stories. There's no energy in the story. There's no sunshine. There's no glory. There's no empathy. They're just flat bad stories. And as I mentioned before, negative energy is very judgmental. It's saying so-and-so can't do that, or this person couldn't do this, and laying out reactionary blame to circumstances. So we always want to be mindful of our energy. And all of us have the capacity for positive and negative energy, but if we're not in the present moment with it, it gets away from us. It's got wheels of its own, and it takes off, and it's going on a race that we really don't want to be in. So we have to check in, and we have to ask ourselves, how am I doing with this? So one last stop at net backward energy. Net backward energy is, again, focusing on why did that happen, what's the problem, who did that, why did you do that, don't you know any better, who wants to tell the boss about this? And so as you're thinking about your work environments and your relationship encounters, because they don't even really need to be at work, think about when these kinds of questions might come into your head. They may come into your head if you're overwhelmed. They may come into your head if you feel like you're the only one on your team who is working. Well, that's your perception. That might not actually be that, but that's a feeling that you have, so we have to recognize that. And think about the circumstances where questions like the ones on the slide in front of you now come into play, and think about what type of reaction you have when they do, and then think about how you might change that and bring in positive energy to situations in order to improve circumstances. So in net forward energy, the basic understanding of it is that we get more of what we focus on. So going back to our work environment, if we are coming to work every day in an environment that we don't like, for whatever reason, we don't need to know why we don't like it today on this call, but think about it. You're driving to work. You really don't want to go there. And you already have a perceived negative energy going on. You aren't going to get very far with positive net forward energy with that mindset. And basically, net forward energy focuses on extracting information, emotions, and feelings from what we focus on. So if we focus on success and we set goals for success and we benchmark milestones to success, we are most likely going to get more success. Does that mean that we aren't going to have failures along our journey? No. We're probably going to have some failures. We're going to have a few breakdowns. We're going to have a few variations. We're going to have some inefficiencies. But if we focus on the goal and we focus on the roadmap, we can get back on track fast. We recover from those mishaps quickly, and we can continue on until we reach our goal and we feel success. We focus on what works and how can we get more of what's working. When things are really working, when their energy is good and everybody is in a good space, whether it's in your family, with your friends, at work with your colleagues, at work with patients, you want more of that. Everybody wants to feel that way. So when we have those moments, stop and think, what's making this work? What's the vibe that's going on? Is the room full of positive energy? Everybody's feeling good today. Everybody got yesterday's task list done. Patients are receptive to treatment today and feeling good. What energies? And then stop and think, how can I get this to come back tomorrow? How can I get more of this? How can I keep this flowing? Good stories. We focus on good stories. Not, again, the situation doesn't have to be good. The situation could have been really, really bad. But the story itself, as it unfolds and corrects the negative situation, is a good story. So we focus on the attributes of the story. What made good come out of a bad situation? Good results get more good results, and problems get more problems. So we choose what we focus on, and if we focus on positive attributes and positive energy, we're most likely going to get more of it. It sounds simple, I know. Some of you may be saying, why are we talking about this today? But I think we have to come back in and we have to be really present, because the outside influences of our daily lives, you hear it all the time. Well, why was I late? Life got in the way. Why did I miss the call? Life got in the way. Why was I late to treatment? My life got in the way. And so we have to, when that happens, we have to take a step back, take a deep breath, and recognize what got in the way and how can we turn that around. How can we make that energy either go into a parking lot somewhere else, we don't carry it into the building with us, or don't carry it into our treatment with us, or we don't carry it into our homes with us, or into our friendships, and we make good on moving forward. So we're going to look at the 5 steps of net forward energy, and we're going to go through them, and we're going to do a little bit of, we're going to put you into the chat box here in just a few minutes and ask you some things about what you might do differently. But one of the first steps is wherever you have something that's really working well in your relationships, in your home, in your work, wherever it is, think about what is already working there. What is working? And what specifically is causing it to work? Is it because I'm a cheerful and delightful person and I greet everyone I meet in the morning when I come into the office? Is it because everything is organized and orderly and all the task list everyone is doing and everyone knows what their role is in the success of the treatment plan? Is it in your families that everyone's doing what they're supposed to do? Your son is doing the dishes, your daughter is sorting the laundry, your husband is washing the car, everybody comes together at dinner and all the tasks are done? Or is it just a natural energy flow? Everything gets done because you attract positive energy towards you, and people don't need to be told what to do. They work on their own well. They know how to complete things thoroughly. They do things with a high standard of quality, and they want to be successful. So think about what is specifically causing things to work and what is the level of effort that might cause it to work. And then think about what do we want to accomplish more of in this realm that's working very well? How can we be more effective or more efficient in what's working well? And what are the benefits of reaching the goal? Are the benefits that we have if we're at our work environment and all of our station task lists are completed, all of our patients are being cared for? Does that give us more time to socialize with one another, to build a better team? Does it give us more time to interact with patients on a more relationship-centered approach to the patient versus the patient and their treatment and their disease? What are the costs of not reaching the goal? Is it a higher level of effort that has to continue? Is it inefficiencies and breakdowns in the process that cause the activities that we're doing to be reworked or to be incomplete? And number 5, what can we do more of, better or differently, to move closer to what we're trying to accomplish? And it's interesting, in the very beginning, in the very first polling question, very few people said that they wanted to know more about, learn more about what they could do to change their current situation. Yet everyone wants to improve their relationships with patients. So it's very, very interesting to see it come through, because there can be a little bit of conflict there. Because generally speaking, to improve something, there has to be some change somewhere, either a human change, a human attribute, a belief, a being that it's going to be okay, there has to be hope, or there's a system approach to change. We're going to cancel this intervention and we're going to implement another intervention and measure that. So we have to look and see, where is the change? What are the system level changes or the human-centered changes that are going to take place to give us the relationships and attributes of success that we want to experience? So learning and action networks provide an opportunity to convert personal knowledge and experiences into shared common knowledge. And we do this by joining together in activities like today, where we're going to be asking feedback from you in the chat box and in the post-evaluation of the call, to share information that's valuable to both patients and healthcare providers. Every day, though, we have an opportunity to convert personal knowledge and experiences to shared common knowledge. We have that. O'Neill, and going back to O'Neill and I preparing for the call today, we shared personal knowledge. He asked me I asked him if such and such was going to be ready, and he answered yes. And I said that wouldn't be a very good thing for me to do either. And he says yes, I agree. So we're taking a process and we're recognizing that I'm not good at it, and O'Neill's giving me feedback, you're right, that's probably not a good place for you to be. So we're exchanging shared common knowledge and perceptions about a very specific task at hand. And we accept one another's position on that. In this particular case, it was super easy. But in a lot of cases, every day, we might not find those things to be super easy. We might have a perception that a tech is supposed to do a certain job versus a nurse versus a social worker. And so when things get a little out of focus and who's doing what, then somebody can feel slighted, or someone can feel that judgmental, that, well, that wasn't my position to do that. And so going back again to net forward energy, we want to bring that energy in to be a common knowledge. We want to share that energy and transfer it back and forth reciprocally from one another. So this year in the LAN, we focused on sharing the Forum of ESRD Networks Grievance Toolkit. And if you're joining the call for the first time, the Forum of ESRD Networks has a grievance toolkit on their website that is downloadable, that is extremely patient-friendly, and helps patients and facilities go through the grievance process collectively. We also introduced how relationship-centered care is different from patient-centered care. And relationship-centered care focused on the relationship that we have with people. It looks at my relationship with O'Neill. When I look at O'Neill, I look at him as a person. I don't look at him as the person who's the moderator on the call today. My relationship with O'Neill is that he has a lot of knowledge about all the technicalities that go into this call, and I want to respect my relationship and learn about the knowledge that he has. If I looked at O'Neill only as a technician or only as a call moderator, I would be losing a tremendous amount of value in learning from him and learning how I might assist other calls and other people when we have a shared call. And the same thing happens in your facilities and in your relationships at your networks and wherever you're calling in from today. When you take a look at the relationship you have with the people and you bring your human-centered approach in, it's going to be different than looking at them as someone who has kidney disease and how you might tackle what's going on with the disease itself. And then our last call discussed the psychological challenges that dialysis patients face, and there's a lot of them. And I think sometimes I'm not clinical. I am mastered in communications by education, but I think this is a really, really valuable one that we often forget. We're going in for a treatment. We already don't feel well. We already have a lot of things going on, a lot of fear. Fear is a significant grounding emotion that a lot of people have that may have a chronic condition. And on the opposite side of that, the people who are treating them often have tremendous amounts of fear. They might not think about it on a daily basis like patients do about their disease, but am I giving the best care possible? Am I using my education correctly? And have I been trained well enough to take on this procedure with this patient? And we don't think of them as fears, but we have a lot of them. And so when we have these fear-based, grounded opportunities, we have a lot of outward emotions that can spew out of us silently or verbally or physically. And so we talked a lot about what psychological challenges dialysis patients face in our last call. So we're going to today, and you can find all of those calls on the ESRD NCC website on the QIA landing page under the professional header, and that was a lot, so we'll have O'Neill send out a little notice maybe in the chat box where you can, he's shaking his head yes, where you can get that link and you can see all of our calls, previous calls this year. And if that's not enough for you and you want more contact information, please reach out to the NCC. We are happy to assist you. So at the same time, I'm going to move on to what are the benefits versus the cost of not engaging in net forward energy. And the benefits of engaging, of course, are better quality of life for patients and professionals and family members, probably not just patients, but all of us. Everybody's going to benefit. We're going to have greater joy in the workplace, no doubt about it. We experience that here at the NCC when we have collaboration, knowledge transfer, positive energy. We have a lot more joy in the workplace, and there's usually some really good donuts to help bring it all together. We've got facility improvement on dialysis facility compare because the patients are responding favorably to the CAP survey, which goes into the DFC. And we have a quality incentive program incentive increase. When we have cost of not engaging in net forward energy, we could have poor quality of life for patients. We also would have it for providers. You might not feel like coming to work. Even at the administrative level, how can I motivate my team? What am I doing that I could do better? How could I do more of what I did yesterday that everybody was really energetic? So cost, workplace apathy, big one. Just not that into it today. Facility decline on the dialysis facility compare because everybody is a recipient of that workplace apathy. And a quit penalty or a decrease in incentive reimbursements that could potentially happen. So there's a lot of emotional, physical, and financial things, qualifiers there at stake. So we're going to move into our discussion, which is going to be through the chat box, and we've got the chat box open here, and we are looking super forward to getting some of your feedback on some of the questions that we're going to put into the chat box right now. And our first one is net forward energy and grievances. And the question that we're posing out to all of you today, and we hope you participate in it, is how might we apply net forward energy to the grievance process at the facility level? We're going to leave the question up on the screen, and we're going to give you about 45 seconds to a minute of quiet time to think about what you'd like to put in the chat box, and then we're going to share out some of the chat box responses.
All right, everyone, this is O'Neill. We'll go ahead and cover some of the comments that we've received so far for this question here, where we ask, how might we apply net forward energy to the grievance process at the facility level? Responses we receive: focus on how we can improve the way we do things in order to help resolve the grievance. Listen with the intent to hear. I might look at it as an opportunity to listen and be open to having an aha moment. Sometimes the situation is I believe this is not. So sometimes the situation is not, or referring to the grievance process is making sure that we keep that at the forefront. I like to have different staff members take over with fresh eyes, so that's a great feedback that we receive. Also, I see take grievances as opportunities for the clinic to listen and grow from the experience and improve quality of care, positive, not negative. Great feedback. Thank you for sharing that. See, another one is indicating not judging the patient, but trying to understand and being mindful of the situation, of how the situation can be better. And begin with win/win attitude. So it's a win-win attitude to more easily reach a compromise with the patient. Also figuring out what is going well and building on that. And then I see another comment, and then we'll pause and I'll turn over to Julie, see if she wants to comment on any of these. Another comment came in a little bit ago. It's if we have net forward energy culture, the grievance may reduce, and we may take problems as opportunities to improve. So we received a lot of great feedback, a lot of great comments, so thank you. And I do see that we're continuing to get more. Please feel free to chat and send in your messages to us. We are looking at these as well. We do have a few more questions to ask the group, so we're going to continue. I'll turn it to Julie, see if she'd like to comment on what we've received so far, and then we're going to continue. But we are capturing these as well, and we'll see if we have time towards the end to circle back and just touch on some of the additional things that you all have said. So, Julie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, O'Neill. These are really great. These are really, really great responses, and I'm sure there's many more. And for those of you who are used to our LANs, you'll know we'll put out the chat box responses and send those out so you can see them. We'll send them out to your networks, and ask your networks to get them out to everybody who's on the call today. But I want to stop and just talk about one of the comments. Listen with the intent to hear. Super important. And I think back to today. I think today, and it's only 2:39 here on the East Coast, and as I read that, and I was sitting next to O'Neill, and I'm thinking about today. How many times today have I listened and maybe not really heard what the person's saying? And if I went back and thought about what they said, what I might have heard when they were saying it would be totally different than what they actually said, because when we listen with the intent to hear, we hear emotion, which we don't hear in words generally. But we hear the emotion. We can feel emotion when it's coming at us, anger especially. We recognize it right away, and we can experience joy. We recognize it because it radiates from the human differently than our words might say. But sometimes when we're just talking, our emotion, if we really listen, we can hear it. And so our goal when we apply net forward energy is to have that forward energy, that airborne, if you will, tone that's in our voice. It doesn't mean that we have to be gleeful and happy and joyful, not at all. But it means that we need to listen with intent. We want to know, what is that person experiencing, so that when we respond, our ability to respond is, even if we have to respond with a negative response, I'm unable to resolve that right now, it comes out with forward energy. It comes out, but I'm going to do something with it. I hear what you're saying. I empathize with you. So great stuff. keep them coming. We've got some more questions, and we're going to go on to our next group is net forward energy and psychological challenges. This is a big one because frustration and challenges and opportunities and anger and depression and just generally feeling negative or down, they wear outwardly on our beings very clearly. So when thinking about positive energy, thoughts and statements, how might we use these to improve the patient experience during dialysis? So be thinking about that. We're going to put the call back on mute for about 45 seconds to a minute. We're going to let you tell us what you're thinking about this question in the chat box.
All right, Julie, thank you once again, and thank you to those of you who are taking some time to share your thoughts via chat. We'll cover some of these to help with time, of course, and please continue to type these out and send them in. We love to see the feedback that we're receiving from the group. We have 260 folks connected to the webinar. We know that there are some who might be connected to audio only, but we do like to hear from you, and we are excited to be able to share some of the comments that you're sharing. So this question here is, when thinking about positive energy, thoughts, and statements, how might we use these to improve the patient experience during dialysis? And some of the feedback you all are sharing, we saw, celebrate the small achievements patients make. Another comment was, laughter is healing. That's good. Thank you for sharing. Always present self as positive response in positive ways. All right. Helping them to focus on what is going well and how to get more of that. All right. Another comment came in is, try to help patients change thinking to more positive thinking, have fun with patients, be real with them, really listen to them, and try to make them feel comfortable during their time here. Another comment, acknowledge the patient's challenges and work with them on finding something positive in their life to focus on, as well as we can attempt to be proactive versus reactive. Another comment that came in a little bit earlier was, give them a voice. So thank you for sharing that. Use a positive affirmation to keep you focused when talking to patients. Talk with the patient during their treatment means a great deal. It means you have time for them and they are not just a number. All right. Just a couple more comments for this one here. Focus on what is going well. More will go well. So when you focus on what's going well, more will go well. And another comment is, compliment the patient on clothes, good lab results, say thank you to them, and taking good care of themselves. Julie, I'll turn over to you, and thank you so much for the comments that we've gotten. Please continue to send them in, and we'll see if we have time, and we can once again circle back and cover some of the additional comments. So, Julie, back over to you.
All right. Thanks so much, O'Neill, and thanks to everybody for your great comments. I want to add one here. Time is a barrier to net forward energy, and so often a lot of the comments that came in and the answers to this question might be somewhat time related. We're rushed. We've got greater patient loads. We've got greater corporate requests. We've got greater concerns when we get home from work. We've got more responsibilities when we get home, and so all day long we're just going from one thing to the next. And sometimes when we just stop and we just get centered, we just take a deep breath and we look at the time and we say, I have time. I have time to check in and ask O'Neill, how is he really doing today? How is he doing? And I have time to wait for his answer so that I get forward energy from that, and he gets forward energy from me demonstrating good care or concern, genuine care and concern about him. So great responses. Thanks so much for staying active in the chat box. We're going to go on to the next question. So your relationships are positive, your patient load is manageable, your patients are compliant to their treatment plan. The chat question and discussion, any one of these that you want to comment on, what elements of this are working to cause this success? What specifically causes it to work? And how can you make more of that positivity to create better outcomes for all patients? And we'll step away from that for just about 45 seconds, let you ponder some of these. You don't have to answer all three, but think about when everything's going really well in what you're doing, in your work and your relationships, wherever they are, what's specifically causing this success?
All right. Thank you so much. On this end, we are excited to see the comments as they fly in. We do have 256 folks who are connected to today's call still, and just seeing the comments as they come in via the chat is amazing. So thank you so much for your engagement and for communicating with us. Very quickly, let me just go ahead and go over the question once again and just go over the answers that we've received to some of these. For the chat question and discussion, we asked what elements, really there are three questions, what elements of this are working to cause this success, what specifically causes it to work, and how can you make more of that positivity to create better outcomes for all dialysis patients. So some of the comments that we've received, I see teamwork, know your patient's needs. Thank you for sharing that. If you believe things are going very well, you feel successful. All right. Now the comment is good communication. Teamwork, if all is going well, it means your team has melded to trust each other. Feeling connected to the purpose of the work and connected to the patients. I see also, and so this is in addition to the comment earlier about if you believe things are going very well, you'll feel successful, and says, and you can share those beliefs with your patients. Thank you so much for sharing that. Another comment I see is you have time to foster relationships and genuinely connect with your patients. Another is when patients feel a positive relationship and care, patients tend to be more apt at following the recommendations of the team. Another comment, staying engaged with patients as well as patient load is manageable, means that staffing is good and lower turnover indicating happy staff, which means happier patients. Just a few more. So thank you again for the great comments, and it's unfortunate we're not able to cover all of them, just covering some of the ones that came in via chat a little bit earlier. But that doesn't mean, again, for you to not type. So go ahead and please continue to submit your comments because we are capturing these. Here's, if the team is working together and changing their strategy to find what works best for each member, success is more likely. And then the last one that we'll go ahead and cover, I'll turn over to Julie to see if we have additional comments because we have about 9 minutes remaining. So real quick, I want to pause and say, if you have any questions based on today's presentation, please feel free to utilize the chat window. In addition to communicating with us by answering some of the questions we're asking you, you can use that to submit questions as well. Last one, Julie, before turning over to you, is working together to show consideration. So Julie, I'll turn it back to you.
So thanks, O'Neill, and thanks everybody for great comments in the chat box. There was a couple of words that busted through in the chat box over and over, and one of them was trust, a big one. And we didn't really talk about trust in net forward energy today, but I think trust in net forward energy has to start from within, in your sense of being. Who am I? How do I want to be? And trust that I can be that way and be received and accepted and respected, and therefore give it reciprocally. So I think that's a big one, and that's a soft attribute. It's a hard one to really work on, but it's coming through in the chat box big time. Connected was another word that came through regularly. We want to feel connected, make that connection, and another big word because it requires a lot of work. Sometimes it's not real natural to connect with somebody. You have to do a little deep diving. You have to want to be open, and you have to want to be perceiving, and you want to feel that energy that's coming from somebody, and then engaged and fostering. So great work in the chat box. We really appreciate it, and we're going to move on to so our last question today, and then we're going to look at a couple of questions that came in the chat box, I think. But our last one is, what can I do to infuse net forward energy into my workflow? What can I do to infuse? I personally, what can I do to infuse net forward energy into my workflow? And we've got about 7 minutes left on the call, so we're going to give you another 30 to 45 seconds here to give us some responses and check back in with you.
All right, thank you, everyone. To help with time, we came back on a little bit earlier than usual. Continue to send in your comments. We're going to cover just a few of what we received so far, and thank you once again for the great feedback that we've gotten. And then again, if you have questions, we have about 6 minutes remaining. Feel free to submit your question via chat as well. So to this question here, response that we received: keep the positive energy flowing, take care of me, be self-aware, promote positivity to team. Right. Another one is use empathy. Comment that came in is quit whining and look for solutions. That made us laugh a little when we saw that come through. Another one, be present, be a good example to the team, lead by example, and develop a positive attitude and positive mental base of my own that will automatically flow in my work. Julie?
Thanks, O'Neill. Thanks, everybody. Great comments. I particularly love Take Care of Me. You know, when you get on the airplane and they talk about in the event of an emergency, put your oxygen on, your own oxygen on first before assisting others, and how true it is. If we have our own oxygen and we have our own sense of well-being, and we are present within ourselves, and we know what choices we want to make, and we can affirm those choices through positive knowledge transfer and sharing, we're well on the road to taking care of me. And people feel that benefit of that relationship, and they reciprocate back to us. So great stuff. We really appreciate you being on the call. I want to take a minute before I turn it back to O'Neill to tell you a couple things about after the call, how to access your certificate again and our eval for the call. But a really good question came in a couple of times. What's the difference between net backward energy and root cause analysis? And that is a super good question. So root cause analysis, when done correctly, sets a stage that wouldn't allow for blame. It's really focusing on quality improvement process management. The process is X, and we look at the process. We don't look at the people in the process in root cause analysis. We look at where there's gaps in that process, and then we might say, well, how did that break down? Well, Julie called in sick that day. O'Neill doesn't normally have to go in to take over her role, but he stepped in because Sally was also unavailable. And so we identify, not that when O'Neill stepped in, we identify as we go on in our root cause analysis in our fishbone that the process is too robust for the amount of staff we have involved in the process. We need greater amounts of staff. We need to assign Julie a well-informed, knowledgeable backup that's a subject matter expert in that particular phase or section of the process. Net backward energy basically would come in and say, we don't need to do a root cause analysis. We know what the process is. Julie called out sick, and there's nobody here to do it, and so we all failed and kind of just dump out really negative energy about something. Generally speaking, in the workflow, hopefully everyone who's part of the workflow in a human-centered design world would have a say in what the process is, and we would identify the process needs and potential gaps in workflow by involving everybody who's in it. But more often than not, processes are made with very little genuine interest in the humans that are going to have to carry out the process. And so there's situations that occur, someone calls in sick, somebody who's not normally involved in the process gets assigned in, and inefficiencies, mistakes, reworks, and breakdowns happen. But we set the stage for root cause analysis, we look at the process, and we keep net backward energy at bay, I think. So in our closing slide before I turn it over to Anil, we gave you a couple of pledges. So if you're a patient and you joined us today, and I think we have a few patients on the call, we gave you a pledge that you create at least one positive encounter with my care team, no matter how complex or how complicated my personal situation has become. So you're figuring, how can I do that? And if you're a provider, I pledge to incorporate at least one positive action into every encounter that I have with every patient I care for, and I am committed to owning any opportunity that I encounter until it is satisfied. And I think you take a look at those and you can rework them in your facilities, in your workflows, in your teams, in your homes, in your relationships, in your relationship with your disease as a kidney disease patient, and think about where you might apply net forward energy. And with that, I appreciate everybody being on the call. Thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to you spending some time with us in 2019, and I'm going to turn it over to O'Neill.
Thank you so much, Julie, and thank you for the presentation, and thank you to everyone who joined us as part of today's discussion. We will end the event, of course, in a moment. A post-event evaluation will display, giving you an opportunity to share your thoughts about today's session, and once you are done with that, you will then be presented with a screen that looks like this, giving you the opportunity to access the learning management system that holds the continuing education certificate. Also wanted to mention that today's call was recorded, and the materials recording will be shared with the ESRD network representative who invited you to today's call. But you can also stay up to date by following us on Twitter, liking us on Facebook, and accessing our YouTube channel that has recordings from previous events. With that, thank you everyone so much for joining us once again. Have a great day, and we hope to see you on a future call. This will conclude today's. Thank you.
O'Neill?
Oh, yes. Hey, Todd?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey.
Hey, I just wanted to say hello to everybody and thank you for joining the call. I apologize for being late to the call. I was actually on the WebEx but couldn't hear the sound, so appreciate O'Neill sending me the call in. But I've been active in some Typhoon U2 activity, so I hope that you enjoyed all of the presentation on the call today, and look forward to talking to you in the future.
Thank you so much, Todd. We always love hearing from you. Truly appreciate you being on and your support. And thank you once again. With that, we will conclude today's discussion. Have a great day, everyone, and we hope to see you on a future call.